This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, July 29th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, some hopeful news on the coronavirus outbreak with some positive tests on a vaccine and indicators the number of deaths of those in hardest hit southern states may soon begin to fall. All this as Congress tries to work out its next economic stimulus bill. Attorney General William Barr's contentious hearing on Capitol Hill, making his case on the administration's response to violence in major cities and on the Russia investigation. Hope for Iran, despite mysterious explosions inside the country and the coronavirus outbreak, why there is a very positive development for many of the Iranian people. And Michael Spurlock's amazing story. He was a salesman turned pastor, and his first assignment was essentially to close a country church. But something very different happened instead. We're going to explore that story and more right here on this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with some hopeful news on the coronavirus outbreak and a test for the potential vaccine from Moderna. 8 monkeys were given the drug, and 7 of them had no sign of the virus in their lungs 2 days later. Pfizer is also working hard on a vaccine. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar told WFAA in Dallas that a vaccine could be available within months.
It is very credible that we could have the high tens of millions of doses of FDA authorized or approved vaccine this year.
This comes as the virus is still taking its toll, with Florida seeing its highest daily number of deaths to date. But there are signs that the number of cases may have peaked, which would mean deaths would begin to fall in the days ahead. Dr. Anthony Fauci told Good Morning America the recent surge in major southern states may have now topped out.
You know, I mean, obviously the southern states that really actually had a major surge, the Florida, the Texas, the Arizona, the California, they appear, I hope, and it looks like they may be cresting and coming back down.
Dr. Fauci also said other states have to be careful about reopening if their numbers of cases rise, but he is cautiously optimistic about a vaccine. He is cautiously, I said, optimistic about a vaccine. The Federal Reserve is meeting to discuss its ongoing response to the outbreak. No major changes are expected in its statement today. This comes as Republicans and Democrats are working out the next economic stimulus bill. Republicans released their $1 trillion plan on Monday. It includes a reduction in a controversial $600 federal boost to unemployment benefits. While Democrats say the cut punishes people out of work, GOP lawmakers and some small business owners say it is necessary to get people back on the job. Heather Sells has more.
When COVID numbers improved a few weeks ago in his area, restaurant owner Sean Dawkins wanted to reopen his dining room. He contacted his laid-off employees, but had no success in bringing them back.
Some of them actually made a comment saying, make sure I'm the last one you call back, because they're still collecting the unemployment. So that's the challenge in itself.
They, along with millions of others, have benefited from state unemployment checks, plus the federal bonus of an extra $600 per week. A University of Chicago study found that it helped more than 2/3 of unemployed Americans receive more in jobless payments than their former earnings. Democrats want to extend it until January, but Republicans say it keeps people on the couch. So they're pushing to replace just 70% of wages.
We believe that they should simply go back to the old unemployment insurance system that pays people a part of their old paycheck, but really incentivizes people to get back on the payrolls.
Workers and Americans understand the concept that you shouldn't be paid more to stay home than to work.
Democrats argue the benefit is keeping families and the economy afloat.
These benefits are a lifeline to tens of millions who want to work, are ready to work, but can't find work.
They worry about expiring grace periods for credit card debt and rent eviction, and the families facing extra medical bills right now. On Monday, Senate Republicans released their economic relief plan, the HEALS Act.
The American people don't just want relief, they want opportunity.
Although it reduces the boost to unemployment benefits, it also adds another round of direct checks to Americans, plus a Paycheck Protection sequel, which helped small businesses, including churches, in the spring. Other provisions include grants for back-to-work child care, $105 billion for schools, liability protection for business, and billions for coronavirus testing. But now many Americans fear Congress will get delayed by party politics less than 100 days from the election. Dawkins is not sure when he will reopen his dining room. For now, takeout is keeping the business going, and his priority is making sure that his family and his workers' families stay safe.
The hope is that, everyone be patient. We're all in this together, and this too shall pass.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
A contentious hearing in Washington Tuesday as Attorney General William Barr appeared before the House Judiciary Committee talking about the administration's response to the violence that has marked many protests in various cities. Barr said violent rioters and anarchists have hijacked legitimate protests and that the violence in the Portland, Oregon area isn't connected to the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. He also spoke about the investigation into the Russia probe of the Trump administration and complained Democrats interrupted him and prevented him from answering their questions. Charlene Aaron is following this story for us.
Attorney General Barr spent nearly 5 contentious hours before the House Judiciary Committee. Democratic Chairman Jerry Nadler set the tone right out of the gate.
In your time at the department, you have aided and abetted the worst failings of the president.
Barr firing back that he's not doing the president's bidding.
I'm supposedly punishing the president's enemies and helping his friends. What enemies have I indicted? Who could you point to one indictment that has been under the department that you feel is unmerited?
Others directly accusing him of violating his oath.
There's nothing more dangerous to our republic than an attorney general who refuses to uphold his oath, refuses to uphold and defend the Constitution, and swears allegiance to just one person, Donald Trump. Sadly, that's where we are today.
My loyalty is the
Mr.
Constitution.
Chairman, I yield back.
That's why I came into government.
Gentlelady yields
The lady just accused him of not adhering to his oath of office. Let him talk.
Republican Jim Jordan, the ranking minority member, said the Democrats' hostility is all about one thing: Barr's investigation of the Russia probe. And his one-word description of the Obama administration's actions?
Spying. That one word. That's why they're after you, Mr. Attorney General. 15 months ago, April 10th, 2019, in a Senate hearing, you said this sentence, quote, "I think spying on a political campaign is a big deal." And since that day, when you had the courage to state the truth, they attack you. They've been attacking you ever since, every day, every week, for simply stating the truth that the Obama-Biden administration spied on the Trump campaign.
The Attorney General made news at the hearing, revealing a separate investigation is underway in the unmasking of General Michael Flynn and others in surveillance reports by members of the Obama administration.
I've asked another U.S. attorney to look into the issue of unmasking because of the high number of unmaskings and some that do not readily appear to have been in the line of normal business.
Wait, I want to be clear. So there is another investigation on that issue specifically going on at the Justice Department right now?
Yes.
He also said peaceful protests in the wake of the killing of George Floyd have been hijacked by violent rioters and anarchists. And he defended sending federal agents to Portland and other cities.
What unfolds nightly around the courthouse cannot reasonably be called protest. It is, by any objective measure, an assault on the government of the United States.
The Mueller report and voter fraud also came up in the hearings. In fact, one Republican lawmaker said Barr was blamed for so much, he's surprised Democrats didn't try to pin the COVID-19 pandemic on him. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
New York's attempt to keep voters safe from COVID-19 by letting them vote by mail in the state's June primary has led to some big delays in completing that vote count. There are also concerns some votes were tossed out, and there are questions about whether there will be an even bigger mess in the presidential election come November. The state is struggling because more than 10 times the usual number of mail-in ballots were used. Voting ended June 23rd, but the results of many races, including 2 closely watched congressional primaries, are still unknown.
We're going to have to adjust our expectations. We're going to have preliminary but not final results on Election Day. it takes time to get it right, and we should take that time.
President Trump's press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, blasted New York's vote count as an absolute catastrophe and a reason to question voting by mail. 4 big tech CEOs will testify before Congress today from Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Google. They'll be answering for their practice amid critics from both the liberal and conservative sides of the aisle. Critics question whether the companies stifle competition and innovation and raised prices for consumers. And many Republicans argue some big tech companies have censored conservatives online. But big tech has its defenders as well, saying they've made life and communication much easier during the coronavirus outbreak. Coming up, Iran is facing multiple problems right now, from mysterious explosions that have severely hurt its nuclear program to a serious affliction of the coronavirus. Despite all of that, there's reason for great spiritual hope for the Persian nation. We're going to tell you why when we come back.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Mysterious fires and explosions are hurting Iran's nuclear program. The regime is also fighting the rise of COVID-19 cases. So why is the virus being called a, quote, pandemic of hope? CBN George Thomas explains.
Whether it's the exploding coronavirus, mysterious fires at nuclear and military facilities, or protests, Iran's ruling Islamic clerics are facing unprecedented challenges as the regime tries to maintain an iron grip on the nation.
This is a regime that's facing really a possible rebellion in the near future. Regime officials talk about it, and so they're executing a lot of people to put fear into the public.
The execution follows a string of mysterious fires and explosions around the country.
This cannot be a coincidence. This cannot be just a series of accidents without malicious intent from someone.
some pointing to Israel's ongoing overt and at times covert war against the Islamic Republic.
Israel specifically is trying to stop the transfer of very advanced, precise munitions to the regime's proxies like Hezbollah, and also wants to slow down the Iranian nuclear program.
This as President Trump reportedly gives the CIA green light to launch more offensive cyber attacks to cripple or destroy some of Iran's critical infrastructures. All this against the backdrop of ongoing government protests and a remarkable revival that's witnessing thousands of Muslims turning to Christianity in the midst of COVID-19.
That's why we call this a pandemic of hope.
Mike Ansari runs Mohabbat TV, one of the most popular Christian satellite channels in Iran. The ministry reports it is recording 10 times more online salvations than this time last year.
We're registering around 3,000 professional decisions, personal decisions by Iranian Muslims to leave Islam for Christianity during this revival.
Ansari says that's 3,000 people each month who've decided to follow Jesus Christ since the pandemic began in March.
People in Iran are just not happy the way their economy is going, the way the government is robbing them of their natural resources and exporting Shiite Islam to the neighboring countries. So they just don't trust their government.
The large number of people leaving Islam is causing a backlash against the church. Dozens of Christians have also been arrested and imprisoned for responding to the gospel message since March.
During these critical times for the regime, there's a tendency historically for the regime to really crack down on religious communities like Christian Commerce, and we see that today.
Iran is one of the world's most dangerous places for Christians, yet Christianity is growing faster in Iran than in any other country in the world. George Thomas, CBN News.
Still ahead, a look at the amazing story of Michael Spurlock, a salesman turned pastor whose first assignment is to essentially close down the church he pastors. Instead, something far different happens. We're going to tell you what that is when we come back.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Welcome back. Michael Spurlock is a salesman turned pastor whose first assignment was essentially to close the country church where he was invited to serve as pastor. More than 10 years later, the church's doors are still open, and Michael Spurlock's story is a major motion picture. Our Studio 5 sits down with Pastor Spurlock, but first, here's a quick look at the film.
The
Dear friends in Christ, the Reverend Michael Spurlock.
Your first job as a pastor is to shut down a church.
It's what it became.
What are you thinking when you take that job?
We didn't meet before. I'm Michael.
You're here to sell the church, ain't you?
The fact is, you had 12 people in that church today.
Jesus had 12 people. He done all right, didn't he?
It's hurting, and folks were discouraged and deflated, hurt, not quite knowing how to move forward.
Michael, you're not here to perform CPR.
If passing out a few flyers helps my congregation feel they can let their church go, I'm going to do it.
If All Saints had a future, we didn't see how it was going to be encumbered with a building that had an $850,000 mortgage and a $5,500 a month mortgage payment.
We're closing the church. We're broke.
Well, what is broke?
Ye Win and a group of refugees from Burma showed up, and it was really the 11th hour when we thought we had an offer on the church and we're going to have to accept it, that I took a walk out on the fields behind the church, and God said, Michael, I have given you farmland, and I have sent 65 expert farmers from the other side of the world. You're supposed to start a farm here.
Start a farm, we work together, we save the church.
Amen. How you gonna plow?
It's funny you should mention that.
What do you do with that mandate from God when you hear it?
I ran up the hill to my office, and I called my senior warden, who's the senior lay leader of the parish, who's a retired Methodist minister. And I said, he'll bring me to my senses. So I called him and I said, Michael, I've just heard God tell me we're supposed to start a farm here. And he says, great, call the bishop.
Wow, so he didn't bring you to your senses?
He didn't bring me to my senses.
You're blowing your boss's chance at a big sale here, preacher.
You risked our careers on this.
You swore an oath as a minister to God, not to me, to obey, even when you disagree.
Swore an oath as a Christian to care for the least of these.
When Ye Win and refugees show up at the church seeking shelter and help, and you're in the process of shutting down the church, what was it that made you open the door and do this?
I don't see how we could honestly claim the title of Christian and done anything differently. What, send them away? Tell them no? It just didn't. My faith in Jesus, my love of Jesus, just tells me there's only one answer here.
I thought I knew the will of God. Was it his voice I heard, or was it mine? We're back where we started.
I want to show you something. We are not where we started. We're somewhere completely new.
And here we sit. This church's doors are still open. There's still a farm out there.
There's still a small farm.
Yeah.
Still.
And there's a movie about this story.
There's a movie about the story. I should also say it's debt-free.
Awesome.
And that provides the community that's still here freedom from at least that burden.
Absolutely.
Too.
Absolutely.
It's strange and it's wonderful. And because it's strange and wonderful, it seems to fit perfectly with this place, because this is a strange and wonderful place.
That strange and wonderful place has a new pastor. Michael Spurlock left All Saints in 2010, but he's still in ministry. And the film is streaming on multiple platforms. For more uplifting entertainment news, be sure to check out an all-new Studio 5 tonight. Singer and pastor CeCe Winans is with us, along with her son, who's now an award-winning music maker himself. That's tonight at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel. And when we come back, Earth is saying goodbye to a spectacular visitor from space. We're going to give you a look when we come back. Stay with us.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? you can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
It's just about time for Earth to say goodbye to a spectacular visitor from space, Comet Neowise. It made its closest approach earlier this month and will be visible for just a few more weeks. But after that, it is not scheduled to be back for some 7,000 years. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is joy. Remember this, happiness is often tied to what is happening around you, but your joy is tied to who you are in Christ, your Creator. And it is His desire that your joy always be full. Hold fast to that promise, even in the face of all that's happening that could steal your happiness. With that word, make this a wonderful Wednesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. I want to remind you, you can always find our programs on the CBN News Channel anytime. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We would love to hear from you and know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at the address on the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make it a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.